She's fast, she's beautiful, she can make you go crazy. She's the Nissan GT-R 35. And I'm here to tell you why this car's still an icon 15 years after it was launched. But first, what's there not to love? The GT-R 35, or should I say Godzilla, was launched in December 2007. But people's love for GTRs and Skylines goes way farther back than that. The Skyline had already established a cult following in the early 2000s and the 1990s. Why? Well, for starters, it's because it was a JDM. It was beautiful, it was fast. And by fast, I don't just mean fast, I mean crazy fast. And to put the icing on top of the cake, it didn't cost that much. Could this get even better? The car earned itself a huge fan base, and people even started calling it Godzilla, which, by the way, was originally given to the R32 Skyline, since it ruled the racing tracks in Japan for 4 years and won 29 back-to-back races. People were already in love with all the Skyline GTR models, the R32, R33, and the R34. Then, Too Fast, Too Furious happened, and thanks to Paul Walker, people simply went crazy. There was a whole new following for the GTR, and suddenly, it was every 90s kid's dream car. But for some reason, Nissan decided to go away for a while. Still, it didn't slow them down though. The automaker came back in 2007, and boy, did they leave a mark. They unveiled the Nissan GT-R 35. And thanks to its already well-established following, Nissan didn't need to sell it too hard to people. This machine sold itself. But was it any better than the older, legendary Skylines? Well, what does bigger, bulkier, and faster mean? That's what I thought. With R35, Nissan decided to give the car a completely new look, and boy, was it beautiful. They still decided to keep the iconic round tail lights. I mean, you can't imagine a GTR without those round lights, but everything else was different. Nissan ditched the iconic 2.0-liter engine for a bigger and more powerful V6. It produced 480 horsepower, and the car could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3.6 seconds. With a top speed of 193 miles per hour, this engine was making waves. And wait till you hear this. It was only manufactured by 4 mechanics. Yes, 4. That's not even it though. The whole engine was actually hand-built, and boy, did that show in the car's performance. Exterior-wise, the R35 also got a whole new look. The new design meant the car was more beautiful than ever. Unsurprisingly, Skyline fans instantly fell in love with the model, and it sold like hotcakes in the American market, which doesn't really come as a shocker since Nissan was delivering this level of quality for just under $70,000 when it was first launched. Cheap. From then on, there have been many newer models and versions of the R35, but one thing's constant. The design, the formula, and the heart of the car remain the same. From Nismo-tuned GTRs to a new facelift model, we've seen many versions of this car, but Nissan knows people love this car as it is. We don't want them to change the design of it once again. We don't even want them to change the engine. There's a reason the line is so successful, and why fix something if it ain't broke? But that isn't to say the car hasn't evolved at all in the past decade. That simply isn't the case. Nissan still makes little tweaks to the engine, and they made it even faster with every upgrade. As of today, there lies a 3.8-liter V6 dual turbocharged engine under its hood. It now produces 565 horsepower, and it now pushes you from 0 to 60 in just 3 seconds. So it's basically the same car we fell in love with 15 years ago. Well, almost. Because while most things stay constant, the price tag does not. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, for something that was supposed to be a budget sports car, it isn't very budget-friendly anymore. A car that was launched at a price tag of $70,000 now sells at just over $117,000. bucks. That's a massive price hike, but you see, it's still a lot cheaper than all the other sports cars. If you look at the Audi R8s and the Porsches, plus some other cars in this category, they're all a lot more expensive than the GTR. So if you compare it with them, you still got a pretty good deal. And if you ask me, the Godzilla is still worth its price tag. This beast can easily put any Porsche or R8 to shame. This car's a giant killer. And if you're someone who's got some huge stacks of cash, there's also a Nismo version of it. It produces 600 horsepower and 481 pound-feet of torque, which is great and all, but the car costs more than $200,000. Yeah, definitely not the everyday man's sports car. But don't lose hope. There are still some options left if you can't get your hands on the R35, such as the JDM GTRs. One thing's for sure, they won't be as expensive as the R35, but you'll still get the whole GTR experience and all, especially if you go for the R32. These JDM cars have an aura. They have a vibe that no other car can match. No matter how many changes you make, how much faster the newer car is, the heart wants what it wants. And for some people, the R32 and R33 are the preferred GTRs, and there's nothing wrong with it. Is the performance of the engine not up to standards? No worries, you can always tune that engine and make it as powerful as you want. Oh, and if you're someone who likes going sideways, the R32 is like one of the best cars for drifting. You can tune it your way and it'll slide on the track as smoothly as water. And believe it or not, the R33 is literally one of the reasons why the GTR has the reputation that it does. Honestly, it's crazy that it wasn't actually the more expensive option that got etched into the history books. But there was a major reason behind that. What was it? 2 words: Paul Walker. Every motorhead wanted a car like the Fast and Furious actor. And while Walker might have been one of the most popular owners of a GTR, there are still some other celebrities that made the car their own. Like Robert Downey Jr.'s one of them. Yep, Iron Man rides in a GTR as well. Do I even need to provide any more proof that this is the coolest car ever? Like, I have no doubt that the GTR flies as fast as his Iron Man suit. Speaking of fast though, did you know that the world's fastest man also owns a GTR? Yep, if it's fast enough for Bolt, it sure as heck is fast enough for everyone else. But the thing is, Usain Bolt doesn't own one GTR, he owns 3. He's a man of taste, y'all. Not that there were any doubts about that. And if you need any more proof about the GTR's iconic status, just peek into Dominic Cruz's garage and take a look at his completely blinged out 2012 GTR. This has to be one of the most beautiful GTRs I've ever seen. The way he loves and maintains that car is literally insane. Like, that's some real Motorhead stuff, but it's what a car like this deserves. These have been just some of the reasons why the Nissan GTR is still an icon. See you in the next one.